Hi, I'm Dee Sanae from Magnetic Magazine, and I'm here with DJ, producer, choreographer Pennywild. She's also New York bred and moved to LA. So, how are you?
I'm good. It's 10:30 in the morning in LA, and just kind of getting my day started.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And coffee in hand.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of a casual talk today. Thank you for joining the virtual space, waking up in the morning on a Sunday, and agreeing to do this interview. And I just want to get into your project, MIDI in Motion. I think it's brilliant, the combination of movement and music. There's some artists that I had interviewed before. Is this a new thing going on? Yours is definitely unique because I want to get into that as well. But
well, thank you. What do you mean new? Like the project? Is it a new project or?
In terms of like dance, combining movement and dance.
I see. Yeah, that's kind of always been a part of my workflow since I began producing music, just because I didn't know how to produce music. So out of sheer ill education, I just kind of, led with what I knew, which was how to choreograph and how to dance and perform dance. And something that we can talk about a little bit later is this MIDI controller that I sort of created a couple years back, where I was able to map drum racks or one-shot samples in Ableton to a DDR dance controller. And so for me, it was actually a lot more, accessible to start writing music literally via choreography with my feet than it was doing it with the MIDI on the keyboard, because I was super used to like step, kick, step, and slide, as opposed to, just typing things with my computer, punching in MIDI manually. Yeah. So it started as just kind of like a conceptual idea that really started as a joke, like, oh, what if I could make a beat with my feet? But then once I got the prototype up and running, I just found it easier to work that way. And now, of course, years into producing, just as far as efficiency, I definitely have moved more into traditional, methods of producing, and I'm not bothering with my feet as much anymore. But in the very beginning, in like 2014, that was kind of all I knew. I had no idea how to use, a digital audio workstation. I didn't even know what that was. So to answer your question, it's not really new. It's kind of what I've always been eager to explore.
And so what made you want to get into production? From like, did you start out as a choreographer, right?
Yeah, I started out as a dancer, musical theater performer, and then I went to a performing arts high school and I majored in dance, and a lot of the dance education was surrounding choreography. I went to a performing arts high school in New Jersey called Howell High School. The program was called FPAC, and it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. And then, I did go on to do the West Side Story tour. It was an international tour, so we hit Paris and London, Berlin, and all the awesome metropolitan European cities. And we did a stint on the West End, and that was a really, really formative experience. And while I was abroad, I was going to all these different clubs like Berghain and Fabric. May they both rest in peace. It's so sad.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I just kind of started being immersed with electronic music and was a little bit interested, flirting with the idea of just being a consumer and being a fan of electronic music. I had never really entertained that before, aside from maybe listening to like Disclosure. But that was really my only exposure to that type of sound. And then it wasn't until I went to my first music festival when I was visiting LA. I think it was 2015. And I saw Grimes, the artist, and I just was so enamored by her, and I just wanted to do exactly what she was doing, and then that's why I started producing music.
No, so I'm going to go back just a little bit more. What was your first? Well, you said Grimes. Was that your first event that you were like, amazed, or was that wasn't your first electronic dance music experience, right?
I had been to clubs, as I mentioned, in Europe, but I wasn't really paying attention to who the DJ or the artist was. It was more about just like being immersed in that type of nightlife and that kind of like soundscape for the first time. But then as far as like, proscenium performance, Grimes was the first artist that I saw where like I knew her name and her likeness, and I researched her, and I was starting to become a fan. And it was Grimes, but it was also just being at a music festival for the first time. I had never been exposed to that world. Some other artists that performed at that same festival I remember really vividly were Little Dragon, Thundercat, The Strokes, Phoenix. Who else? Oh, Nicholas Jar. So it was like an abundance of like excellence that weekend.
So when was the moment where you're like, oh, I wanna do this? I don't want to just do dance. I want to do music too.
It was like right then and there at the concert. Quite literally, a couple days later, I went on to I was enrolled in a college musical theater program at the time, and I logged onto my little student portal, and I like disenrolled from all my classes, and I said, like,
where was this?
Not continue this BFA program anymore, and I'm going to move to LA and pursue music.
What year was that? And were your parents happy about that?
They were definitely a little freaked out. I told them they were going to want to sit down before I told them that news. That was in 2014 or 15. I think it was 15. But it was either one of those, because then I didn't end up having enough money to move to LA until 2016. So once I made that decision, of course, I then stayed in New York City and, worked my ass off and tried to figure out a way to move to LA. And lucky enough in, an act of kismet, I ended up getting a job in LA. So that was my grand excuse to finally
move. What was the job?
I was working as an assistant and a dancer to a YouTube artist / pioneer, Todrick Hall.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I love him, by the way.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
What's that one song, Dem Beats?
Yeah, Dem Beats. Mm-hmm. They don't make Dem Beats like these.
Yes. I'm like, somebody teach me that dance. So now I know I can.
I know.
It's very hard. Who did Brian Friedman, right? He choreographed.
That sounds about right. I don't know for sure, but I know he worked for him.
Oh my God. So, okay. Now you have to tell me all about that. So how was it Todrick, did he have influence? Because he does sort of like housey music, right?
Yeah, we both come from a musical theater background, first and foremost. So I was doing a musical with him. I was doing Cats, the musical with him at a theater in Texas.
So cool.
And I had always been a fan of Todrick. And then when I got to work with him and do a show with him, that was sort of a dream come true. So he was actually in the midst of shooting an MTV reality TV show called Todrick. And he was shooting that while we were in the show. So he, asked me to be in a couple music videos for the TV, which was like beyond my wildest dreams. I couldn't believe that not only was I doing a show with him and being a coworker of his, but now I'm also doing this MTV show. And it was a really, really exciting time. And I ended up writing him a big letter telling him that I would really love to work for him. And here's why he needs to hire me, and, ABCD.
Nice.
And he ended up hiring me and flew me to LA, and I lived at his house for about 6 months. And I worked as his, right-hand man amidst all of his other incredible members of his team. We really were like, a big family. And then I got to the point where I really was interested in my music career and having that take off. And with Todrick, it's so demanding, and he's just got so much going on. So it just wasn't the right fit anymore. But I ended up staying in LA, finding another place to live, and really pursuing my DJ career. Nice.
Oh, so that's so exciting. So the show that he did, were you that one show? And this is the last question I'll ask about that. He did like a music video show. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was the show I was referencing, Todrick on MTV.
So you were in that?
Yeah, I'm in a couple of the videos. Blink and you'll miss me, but
it was brilliantly done. That's the first time I've ever heard of him.
Yeah.
And first I heard of him with Dem Beats, and then you do this like Google search. You're like, who is this person? And then I saw the show, and I was like, how brilliant of these music videos, and they're telling a story. And he was speaking about very powerful, important political topics, right? As well as racism. And wasn't it like a switch where it was African American people that were the ones in like the 1950s, right?
Oh, now you're referencing one of his visual albums that he put out after the MTV show. But yeah, that was a brilliant film. I believe that was called, I forgot. He has a myriad of visual albums. He has like 3.
Wow.
I'm in that one as well. I'm in one of the first songs, but again, shot on the big Universal lot.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people involved. So, and I had brown hair at the time, but yeah, working for him was really fantastic. And I learned so much.
Now I'm going to go back and look for you.
Nice. Awesome. Send me a picture.
So, okay. What gave you the idea for the title MIDI in Motion? Was this something to do with your dance relationship with music?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just a way to encompass the concept. The whole idea behind the EP was that I wanted to find a way to make dance a generative, force of creation as opposed to a reactive. And what I mean by that is most common, we think of dance as something that you do after you hear music or because you hear the music. It's something that you're doing in response to music creation. But I thought it would be really interesting to explore what it might be like if, dance was the generator force. It was creating the music, and the sound was the react of that and was the byproduct of that. And thus became MIDI in Motion.
Which I saw the video, and I think I first of all, you say you have a patent on it, right? And it's still in production, so it's not released yet?
It's not released yet, no. Yeah. And it may come to the point where it doesn't even ever get released. It was more just sort of a proof of concept exploration as opposed to something I wanted to get to the shelves or sell or turn into a video game or turn into a actual purchasable product. It just really wasn't about the business for me. It was more about exploring, that concept, and it ended up really bleeding into and influencing the way that I create music, which was kind of the utmost importance. So kind of TBD, stay tuned about any news with as far as the controller is concerned.
Nice. So how did you meet the person that helped you build the prototype? I can't recall his name right now, but.
Yeah, I met, his name is Kobe. He's incredible. He's a really fantastic music producer, finger drummer, extraordinaire DJ. And I met him because my set was right before his set for mutual friends art installation in downtown LA, probably in 2016, 2017. And I was just super enamored by his set, and he spoke really nice words to me. We were just both kind of fans of each other's music. And we ended up connecting and just kind of having some sessions in the studio. And it wasn't until a couple sessions later that I was just showing him some reference videos of what I wanted to do and kind of showing him my progress. And because he was a finger drummer, he's a really competitive finger drummer, meaning he uses Ableton Push or whatever controller he's using at the moment, MIDI Fighter, what have you. And he can move his fingers incredibly fast and go like kick, snare, he can just kind of punch out all of the different tracks live. So he makes all of his music live, and that's usually what his DJ sets entail. But we just kind of started playing around, and from there we started kind of setting some goals and applying to some scholarships and trying to get some grants. And one thing led to another, and it was just kind of like our project. We were working on like a music project, and then we kind of shelved that for the moment to work on this music and tech project. And yeah, I'm super grateful for all that we shared together. He's a fantastic artist.
And you said you had that moment where he's helping you, I guess, with the coding, and then you say it the first time it actually transmits to the software. You mentioned that Kobe said, do that again. So that was the moment that it started working, right? How many tries did you have?
we had been troubleshooting for weeks and weeks, ordering all types of adapters on Amazon, just trying to make things work. There's obviously no blueprint for something like this because it was just a wild idea that I had, years ago that came to fruition out of, pure tenacity and hard work and dedication from the two of us together. But we essentially entered the correct code. And very, very, it was kind of a moment right out of like Dexter's Laboratory where you're just like cooking up chemicals and trying to make things work. And then, yeah, it must have been 3:00 in the morning, just kind of coffeeed out, just trying to make this thing work. And I think at this point I was sitting on the mat, kind of just like putting my hand on the sensor, trying to get it work for the umpteenth time. Mm-hmm. And then we heard, what was it? It was some sort of synth that we had mapped there, and we heard like a shoo, and he was like, "Do that again," and then shoo, shoo, shoo. And from there, we started chipping away at the technicalities of it all. But that was kind of the opus moment.
And so, what did you feel like? I'm sure there was like a big celebration because I would have been like, "Oh my God, something's working!"
Yeah, it was definitely super gratifying. It just kind of felt like the culmination of a bunch of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. And I just kind of in that moment saw the future and the promise of what we could do with that. It was, definitely more largely signifying than just hearing that sound.
Yeah. The whoosh, the swoosh.
Yes. The swoosh.
Okay. So your album, MIDI in Motion, but you use it's called the PennyPad, right? You use that in the production for your songs on this album, right?
Yes.
Nice. So what was your very first song that you completed through the PennyPad for the album, MIDI in Motion?
The first song that I completed was Shirley Temple, which is the second song on the EP. And that is the song that is sort of dedicated to tap dancers and tap dance technique. And the fun fact about that song is in addition to sourcing sounds from the PennyPad, all of the percussion is actually just super modified and chopped up versions of me tap dancing. I was doing a series of tap steps just live into a condenser mic. And then I went in and I chopped up a bunch of those sounds. And those are the little percussion sounds that you hear throughout. So all of the drums are not programmed. It's all my tap shoes. So that was a really grueling process because it was really hard to compress those sounds because they're not typical drum sounds. That would be like sort of turning vocal samples into drums, which is, can be quite an involved process if you want it to really sit nicely in the mix. So that was a really interesting process. And that was the first track that I completed. Yeah.
Oh, and I love, I just saw the video for Intro Dancer's World.
Yes, exactly. Unreleased. So I'm really happy that you got to see it.
Oh, it's unreleased. Yes. Okay. So it's a private preview. When does that get released? Like to the world?
I don't know. We're still locking in a couple of details for the premiere. So TBD, but hopefully really soon.
What has been affected by COVID with your, of course, touring has been affected. Has anything COVID related affected you to delay any of your projects, or has everything?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. It's like in the beginning of the lockdown, I think we were all kind of frozen. Everybody put their project at home. Nobody knew how to proceed, and we were like, all right, we're in a bubble. We're in a little time capsule right now where nobody wants to make any sudden movements because it was a really risky environment and a really risky climate to be releasing music. Then I think a couple of months in, everybody sort of collectively agreed that it was actually not the worst time to be pushing digital projects. I think physical releases was another thing, and obviously the touring aspect is another thing, and all the live performance aspects are another thing. But when it comes to just pushing releases and pushing out projects, the landscape has actually been, pretty complimentary. It's like everybody's at home listening to music. Yeah. Everybody's in the car listening to music. So it did delay the release process, of course, just because it's a trickle down system from management to label. I didn't really have any control over that initial timeline because everybody was in crisis mode, and then all of these labels were behind on their releases, so everything got pushed back. And I'm actually a producer DJ that does a lot of like corporate events and like local DJing. So, you know, all of the spots that I've got like residencies at, like The Friend or Winston House, you know, it just came to a halt. So a lot of my income from these DJ gigs was swiftly taken away. So I had to figure out a way to, you know, earn residual income that wasn't providing live music entertainment for, you know, clubs and bars and events. So I do a lot of private events, and it's one of like my favorite parts of my musical life and endeavors, because I just get to meet so many cool people, and you know, who wouldn't love to get paid to listen to music and play music?
So what were some of those creative ideas to keep you going since you weren't able to do a live performance?
Yeah, great question. I have been sort of developing a digital marketing agency for the last couple of years, just kind of by accident, because as you mentioned, I come from a dance background. So I've got a lot of peers that have quite large followings on social media. And I was starting to get asked to do favors for my friends that work in management or booking agents or, you know, just general music teams. And I discovered that I could find a way to make some money doing that, and kind of just being the dot connector and the liaison between the artist and the dancer, or the artist and the influencer. Most of the time, larger audiences than the artists themselves, you know, because dancers have become modern day celebrities thanks to Instagram, which I think is incredible. They're finally getting their you know, time in the sun. They're talented, all of these dancers. And so, yeah, I started, whether it be directing the video or just putting the pieces together. So producing or choreographing or, you know, just generally facilitating. And so that's actually kind of been the main streamline income for me for the last 8 months. And I'm super grateful for that opportunity, because I know that that's something that's really in demand right now. I mean, it's crazy because I had been doing that kind of stuff just throughout all of my endeavors for the last 4 years, as I mentioned. But then once live performances came to a halt, digital marketing just went like this. Like everybody wanted Instagram posts, everybody wanted YouTube content, everybody wanted long form, short form, whatever it was. And so then by proxy, my clients' rates were able to go up because the demand went up, and it ended up being a saving grace for me. Yeah.
So your marketing agency is called,
Yeah, just Pennywild LLC. I just kind of run everything that I do through Pennywild, just through my business account. It's kind of just easy to kind of mesh everything, because it is all different facets of music, but it's all music, you know, whatever it is, whether it's choreography, direction, production, artist, digital marketing, you know, it's just kind of all jumbled into one.
It's in the dancer world, your clients and who you represent through Pennywild?
It started as dancers, and then, you know, it ended up kind of just slipping into influencer territory. So now I represent lifestyle influencers, you know, comedians, makeup artists. And then with, you know, the big TikTok boom, that opened up the gates for a whole lot of other types of influencers.
Wow. You're amazing.
Thank you so much.
So, no, I mean, I like it. And we need more women representation and leaders in this industry anyway. So I'm kudos to you.
I agree. Thank you.
So going back to your album, Footsteps, right? That's more of a down tempo. Oh. Yeah, and it has, your songs have like a hip hop b-boy when I was listening to it. Like that was intentional, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, one of the songs, Break Time, you know, definitely explicitly samples a bunch of Stone's Throw, like turntablist, 90s hip hop, traditional classic hip hop samples, which was certainly on purpose because, you know, each song is dedicated and pays homage to a style of underground dance that I am a fan of, or that I've been involved in throughout my dance career. And I, you know, have some experience breaking myself. Haven't done it in a while, but as a kid, I was really into breaking, and I had a mentor that was a b-boy that really helped me, and it became kind of my signature style and my secret weapon. And so I in a sense, grew up on some of those records, Electric Boogie, you know, Sugar Hill Gang. And so it felt really fitting to feature those in the song.
I mean, I was like, okay, I see what she's doing here. And I think it's phenomenal that you're paying homage and you're intentional with your productions, because Break Time is one, but I hear this throughout the other songs on the album.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love what you just said about like being intentional with your production. That's like, that is like kind of right on the money. It's like, there are of course projects that I have started and not finished, or started and finished that are just more like vague dance floor records. But, you know, I was putting out my debut cohesive project, so I did really want it to be intentional, and I wanted it to be specific.
And you do capture a lot of 90s?
Like, yeah, certainly in Break Time specifically, and maybe a little bit in general, although it's definitely a little bit more arbitrary. But yeah, I can totally see why you'd say that.
So what's your next release on this album? Do you have like an upcoming single?
So the EP that I released, MIDI in Motion, that was just a one-off project. So I won't be releasing anything else for that EP because that's already been released. But I do have another EP coming out in early 2021, which I'm really excited about, which I won't say too much about yet. But
you got to tell us the title. Just kidding. Well, hopefully we can sit down and have a virtual chat again.
Absolutely. I love that.
And talk about that project.
Totally.
And
we're just left to our own devices. So, you know, I've just been working on a bunch of music, like I said, that I'm kind of collecting and putting into another sort of concept EP that I'll be releasing. I recently directed and choreographed a dance video for Zed that is going to be coming out super soon. Really excited about that, with two of my favorite dancers that I also work with on the marketing side. But this was one of those opportunities that I got to get directly sort of involved in the creative sense. Working with a really, really incredible DP production company and visual artist. So that's being edited right now, and it should be out super soon. Hopefully by the time this is out, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, that project is something I'm really excited about. And then, I don't know, you know, just to be transparent, I'm going to go home to New York. I'm going to chill with my parents and just get some family time in. I haven't seen them since the whole pandemic started. So, you know, honestly, what's new for me, what's coming up for me, next steps is like, I've got some recipes I want to try.
Hopefully, as we spoke about before offline, that we don't go into another, because we're not out of the first wave yet. We're still in the first wave. And hopefully we won't have to go into another mandated, you know, quarantine like the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, crossing my fingers that, you know, we can just kind of get this under control as efficiently as possible so that we don't have to keep experiencing loss, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Do you have any plans coming to DC, like in the future?
I don't, but my sister used to live in DC, so I had, you know, gone and visited, and I love it over there. It's incredible. It must be really charged right now. But
it's a ghost town. They had the Million MAGA March yesterday. And, you know, I don't know if you heard or up to breast, right? It was just to, you know, draw so many. And it's just like any other twist and turn of some people that support Trump. There was barely anybody. It was really embarrassing.
God. They love you, you know.
Yeah.
God,
you said they love me. You said they love me.
Yeah. I would say wish them nothing but the best, but I'd be like, that's beyond my comprehension, and I can't even go there. Yeah. But that being said, I would like to visit DC at another point within the next 4 years, absolutely. Yeah, you know,
it's a ghost town here as well. Like you can go to the city, and you've been here before, right?
Yes.
Did she live in like DC or like?
She was in Georgetown.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, do you remember how busy it was, right?
Yeah,
on the streets, there's all the stores. Yeah, there's hardly anybody there. I was driving there the other day, and there's like 5 people. So I'm sure it's akin to what New York looks, you know, like.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
LA is definitely like moving along. You know, there's certainly lots of people. I think people are being really careful here for the most part. Lots, you know, always wearing a mask and staying distance, no gatherings over 6, etc. I'm trying to just kind of like do what I have to do for work. And kind of keep it to that for now, which is sad but necessary.
Absolutely. So anyway, I wish you well on your trip to New York, and I hope it's safe. And thank you, you know, for joining. And we will talk soon. So you can follow her on IG, and I'll let you tell them where they can follow you and your website.
Yeah, you can follow me on all platforms. I'm at Pennywild Music across the board. SoundCloud Pennywild, Spotify Pennywild, Apple Music Pennywild. And then you can visit my website for more information about all the little things that I'm up to, pennywildmusic.com.